Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back, subscribers. If you're new, welcome. This segment is called Pension Alert. It's basically I go around looking at different police departments' pension systems. You'd be surprised just how many of them are struggling. I do this so that it can hopefully spark an interest, spark an urgency in police officers, in applicants, in people in general, spark an urgency for them to take an active, almost obsessive interest in their own retirement and making sure that they're securing their own bag for their future. Today, Pension Alert number 2, we're talking about Fort Worth Police Department. Let's get into it. So, today, Pension Alert number 2, we are talking about Fort Worth Police Department. Now, Fort Worth Police Department isn't like the department that we were doing in episode 1, and the city of Fort Worth is actually taking proactive steps to stem the bleeding, if you will, of their pension system. But it's no surprise that Fort Worth, just like the majority of cities across the nation, has a huge unfunded liability in its pension system. So for those of you out there that are probably just watching this for the first time or just tuning in, what is an unfunded liability? Essentially, what that means is a police department's or city's pension system has more obligations than it actually has funds to pay. Currently, Fort Worth has about a $1.6 billion unfunded liability in its pension system. And if things don't change, if they don't make some type of drastic contribution change or benefit change to the pension system, their pension fund for police, general city, and firefighter is scheduled to run out of money, be zero, by the year 2040. Now, as a result of that, they have taken some drastic measures to address this issue. And you can look at it and think it's a bad thing. But essentially what they're doing, even though they are cutting in heavily to salaries and the overall benefit nature of the pension system, they're essentially doing whatever they can to preserve it for people who are currently drawing on the system and future generations. So you can't really fault them for that. And that's not the goal of this video, right? I'm just highlighting it so that you're aware and that you begin to take an active interest in your own investments. All right, so let's look at it a little bit more closely. So back in 2011, the city management of Fort Worth began to look at different methods that they could use to address the growing unfunded liability in the pension system. And so one of the things that they came up with is they split the service time of all the active police officers. So they have blue service, which applies to officers who were hired before January 1st, 2013. And they have orange service, which applies to all officers hired after January 1st, 2013. Under these new groups, they had begun to change and increase the contribution limits. But even with those contribution limit changes, even with those increases, the actuary who reviewed Fort Worth's pension system detailed that the fund still wouldn't be up to date, still wouldn't be current until 72 years from now. So the city itself is actually shooting for a shorter time, and they want it paid off in the next 48 years. But to reach that goal, they've had to make some big changes that if you are a new officer coming in, you're going to want to know about it. So let's look at the very first thing that they had to change, and that is the contributions. So let's look at the contribution changes. I'm reading straight from the Fort Worth website. So this is what it says. All police officers in Group 3, that would be the blue group, hired before January 1st, 2013. And all police officers in Group 4, that's orange group, for officers hired or service after January 1st, 2013, will contribute an additional 3.8% towards the pension solution, in addition to another 0.6% for their 25 and out provision. This increase will be phased, effective as of July 20th, 2019 pay period. Contribution will increase yet again by 1.8%, beginning with pay period 1 of 2020. It will increase an additional 2%, and beginning with pay period 1 of 2021, contributions will increase again by an additional 0.6%. So, as you can see, there are contribution increases scheduled for at least the next year or two. But I did some more digging, and they have it stipulated that if the health of the pension system does not improve, or the outlook doesn't improve based on what they receive from the actuary, then they have it written so that they could still implement more increases over essentially an unlimited amount of years until the pension system is scheduled to get back on track. So what does that mean? Well, the contributions, if you don't know, come out of your weekly paycheck. So, you'll pay things like taxes. You'll have deductions come out for your health benefits, your medical, your dental, your eyes. You'll have deductions come out, hopefully, if you've been paying attention, for your 457B. Right? And another thing that comes out, you might have union dues also. And another thing that comes out are going to be the contribution percentages for your pension. So with them increasing the amount that you have to contribute, it means you're going to have less money to take home. You're going to have less money to pay bills with, less money for recreation. And more important than all of that, you're going to have less money to invest. So the next big change, and this is big, and the way I understand it, there are two ways that it could be interpreted, but the way that I'm understanding it is that it's going to affect police officers' retirement and not so much their in service, because they are still getting step raises and they still have yearly contract salary increases. So the next big change that the city had to make to preserve the pension system is affecting COLA. COLA stands for cost of living adjustments. Again, the way that I am interpreting this is that it's applicable to when officers retire. So again, let's read it straight from the source. It says, the current structure of the COLA has been completely preserved for all officers in Group 3 who retire early with a penalty, or who enter drop by January 1st, 2021. These officers will receive either an ad hoc COLA, a simple 2% COLA for their years of blue service and orange service through July 20th, 2019, depending on their previous individual choice. However, they make a stipulation here. COLAs have been eliminated for Group 3's future service beginning July 20th, 2019. This means that officers with blue service will not receive a COLA for their future service after that cutoff date. So whatever service, whatever years, whatever percentage that adds up to, you will get a cost of living adjustment on that, but they are not honoring COLA past that point for officers in Group 3. And I'm kind of jumping ahead, but if you're wondering, what about Group 4? Well, officers that fall into Group 4, they don't get COLA ever. So they will never have a cost of living adjustment when they retire. So if you retire with $100,000, right? Typically, what is still common practice in pension systems today is that every year or so you get a cost of living adjustment somewhere around that 2 to 3% to kind of just keep up with inflation. But however, In this instance, in Fort Worth, because they have to save that pension system, they've made it so officers in Group 4 will never be eligible to receive a cost of living adjustment for their retirement. It's written so that even if the health of the pension system increases and gets better, still, it's not going to happen. So that is an important piece that you're going to want to keep in mind. Another change that they had to make in Fort Worth to save that pension system was sick leave. So now, effective July 20th, 2019, any unused sick leave will no longer count towards service credit. They do make the stipulation that any unused sick leave accumulated up to before that point can still be used towards service credit. But for you new officers out there, you young officers out there, you rookies out there, the sick leave, it's a no-go. You still get it, but it does not, there's no incentive to really hold on to it, which is the common practice right now. So the last big thing that the city of Fort Worth had to change to ensure the health of its pension system long-term is something called a risk-sharing clause. Now, this is something I had never heard about. I had never heard about it until I started doing research on this police department's pension system. And if you're out there looking like, what is that? Let me tell you, it's pretty crazy. So I'm going to read it directly from the source so that we can get all the details exactly correct. So this is the risk sharing clause or the risk sharing mechanism. It states, if the health of the pension is not restored by changes to the benefit and contribution increases, a risk-sharing mechanism will kick in during 2022. So it's 2020 now, and 2020 is almost over. They're really only giving these contribution changes and these benefit reductions like a year to start showing improvement. And if not, then this clause is going to kick in. So it says, if that happens, police officers in Group 3 and Group 4 will contribute an additional 1.6%, with the increase limited to 0.8% in any 1 year. Any further changes would require city council adoption and potentially another council vote. Based on the results of Fort Worth's actuarial valuation, it is anticipated that the risk-sharing contributions will commence in 2022 at a combined 2% of pay, the maximum level for that year, and increase in 2023 to a combined 4% of pay, the maximum level, and this will continue through 2061. 2061, that is 41 years. Basically, if you're a rookie right now, if you're in the county right now, you won't even be working when this thing finally stops. So not only are you doing the contribution increases that I was talking about earlier, but if by 2022 things aren't shaping up, then they are going to implement these additional contribution increases for the next 41 years. Why? Because pension systems are under attack. They've been badly managed. And if you think that you're just going to sit at a department for 30 years and ride it out and collect that pension and everything's going to be a-okay, you are sadly mistaken. There's also the fact that officers in Group 4, that orange group, so younger officers, are having their multiplier reduced down to 2.5%, which is going to drastically reduce the percentage that they're able to get when they retire. And I know it sounds all doom and gloom, but like I said on the first video, this is not an isolated incident. And by far, Fort Worth is at least taking an active role in trying to preserve the pension system. For those of you out there who aren't taking an active role in their own investments. So these crazy things have to happen. These reductions in benefits, these increases in contributions have to happen to preserve, as long as they possibly can, the pension system. You don't like it? It's widespread. As you're going to see, this is across the first 2 episodes have been in Texas, I know, but this is a nationwide problem. It's just something with the way pension systems are organized and how they're being managed. It's an issue. And so if you're going to rely on the pension alone for your retirement, I highly suggest that you don't do it. Watch my channel, watch bigger channels that talk about finance and investments, and really start to diversify your portfolio and not just rely on the government. Even though you work for it, don't rely on the government to be your sole provider for your retirement and your future. All right, that's it for today. Pension alert number 2, Fort Worth Police Department. If you like this, then please click the like button. If you like the content, then please subscribe. Click the notification bell. Share it on social media. Share it with a friend. Send them a link in the text or something. It helps the channel out tremendously. This has been Xavier, Cadet Rookie Cop. As always, stay blessed, and I will see you guys on the next one.